That piece is Syrinx, or Syrinx, by Debussy, and it was written to be played on a flute. But today it is being played by John Sebastian, and Mr. Sebastian does not play a flute. He plays an instrument that must seem to many of us to be a sort of refugee from a toy counter. He plays a harmonica. Mr. Sebastian, after you've made such an eminent career out of a harmonica, I hope you don't mind my referring to it as a sort of busy whistle.
May I quote Mr. Cooke?
Me?
No, the Encyclopedia Britannica.
Fine.
That eminent publication defines the harmonica as follows. A few free reeds, each supplied with wind separately from the mouth of the player, are fastened in a small metal box. The tune is made by moving the instrument to and fro across the mouth, simple tunes being the result. Actually, the Grove's Dictionary of Music doesn't have very much to say for the harmonica, claims that the artistic possibilities are nil. And I think they really mean to refer to this simple instrument that may recall your childhood, which we all played at one time. You remember? I held it backwards. I've even forgotten my own childhood. You remember this one? Tunes of this kind certainly have floated across the land of America for over 100 years, ever since the harmonica became a part of us. From the time it was introduced, it seems, it captivated us as a people and became a part of our life. Many Americans from all walks of life played the harmonica. Mr. Abraham Lincoln apparently played one. In fact, in his early years as a politician in Illinois, when he was campaigning, he often had one in his hip pocket. And once, when asked why, he simply replied, "This is my band. Mr. Douglas had a brass band in Peoria, but this'll do for me." And actually, the harmonica that Mr. Lincoln played was about the same as the one that I played on for you just a few minutes ago. Now, this question of the harmonica, of how sound is produced, could best be related by an illustration to the simple blade of grass that we kind of all played with as children. The blade of grass being a reed, the hands cupping around the reed, and the air blowing up against the reed, causing it to vibrate, and thus producing a sound, maybe, tonight. I did this once. That was before. I can't do it, but you know what I mean. You've certainly done it. Your children are still doing it, probably. Now, the first application of this principle of a reed which produces a sound apparently comes from China, an instrument known as the cheng. About 5,000 years ago, during the reign of an emperor, Huang Tai. It's a lovely instrument. You notice it has a series of bamboo pipes what you can't see are the reeds that are attached in each of these pipes, little reeds made of gold, so that when you blow air through this duck neck, you cause the reeds to vibrate and thus producing a sound. This must be a difficult instrument to play. I don't have that much time to study. But this basic idea of the cheng relates to the harmonica because it's the same principle, really. That is that of a reed that is attached on one end and in a chamber, and then air that is pressured through this chamber, either the human breath, or in the case of a little accordion, or in a harmonium, or these little house organs, bellows that pressure the air, and thus producing a sound according to the length of the reed. Here we've kind of disassembled a simple harmonica to give you an idea of the parts that go up to make a harmonica. Here is the wooden comb made of pear wood, and the slots are the little chambers. And then these plates made of brass have reeds attached to it on one end, which are then attached to this wooden comb, and then the covers, the metal covers, with which to grip the harmonica. Now, whether it's this little instrument or whatever size of harmonica, the principle is the same. The reeds, the chamber, and the air producing the sound. For example, here's one that's quite small. Or we can go to the bass harmonica, which is used for ensemble work with very low sounds. And whether the designs or the materials used in the making of a harmonica are different, that is, through the years, they've been made of plastic, silver, so many instruments, still the same principle applies. Here we have a photograph of a harmonica made around 1840. This one with silver reeds. There's one a little bit more primitive looking, which was made about 1830 in Germany. Now, here's one that seems complicated, but actually it's a series of simple harmonicas in different keys attached to a core, and then the handles on the side are to be gyrated if the player wants to jump from one key harmonica to another. Then there's one that was quite fashionable in Vienna about 1870. It's made of ivory and rather beautifully done. We have a picture of a harmonica that belonged to Emperor Franz Joseph of Austria, and it was his personally, and actually he played it. Now, whether the Encyclopedia Britannica was exactly right in what they said, I'm not going to question. However, it's undoubtedly true that only simple tunes were possible on a simple harmonica, the one that you and I played as children, because it had a diatonic scale. Now, what is a diatonic scale? Well, you know, it's just do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Of course, you couldn't get the sharps and flats. Now, this naturally produced a limitation. However, about 40 years ago, there was an interesting development in the harmonica. For the first time, a chromatic harmonica was made. That is, one in which you could play sharps and flats and play in many keys. That's the predecessor of this instrument that I play tonight. Now, the extraordinary thing about this instrument that I play is, for example, the range, which no one expects it would have. It has a range from C below middle C on the piano up to D natural here, 4 octaves above. And the way of getting the sharps and flats is also rather interesting. You have a lever on the side of the harmonica, which is attached to a spring for fast action. And when it's inserted, it opens this plate of the harmonica on this side so that the chambers and the reeds on this side are exposed. Now, they're the equivalent of the black keys on the piano, say. And then when I release the lever in its natural position, it opens up the chambers and the reeds on this side, and thus giving us the equivalent of the white keys of the piano, so that, chromatically speaking, you can play